The invitation arrived on heavy cream cardstock, gold letters gleaming across the front. The Thompson family requests your presence at Willowbrook Country Club to celebrate Richard's promotion to senior partner. Beneath the formality, a penciled note had been added, dress code strictly enforced. No cheap clothing. I sat in my home office staring at it, surrounded by stacks of property deeds and acquisition reports. Willowbrook. Of course, they had no idea I'd bought the entire club 18 months ago for $23 million when the previous owners defaulted. It had been one of my easiest plays, a distressed asset in a prime location. They still thought of me as the family disappointment, clinging to a dead-end office job. What they didn't know was that I'd spent 8 years quietly building a hospitality empire now worth $89 million. Buying Willowbrook had been especially sweet. Uncle Richard, a member for 15 years, had never stopped bragging about its exclusivity. He'd mocked me more than once, sneering that some people will never afford a place like this. Tonight, he was hosting his grand celebration there, never realizing his so-called failure of a niece owned every chandelier, every fairway, every chair in the dining room. I arrived Saturday in a plain navy dress from Target, the kind of outfit that would only confirm their assumptions. My Honda Civic blended poorly with the parade of luxury cars outside, but I handed the keys to the valet without hesitation. Inside, the Magnolia Room glowed with chandeliers I had personally approved during renovations. 40 family members filled the tables, buzzing with talk of success and privilege. Sarah, Aunt Patricia spotted me. You made it. We weren't sure you could take time off work. I managed, I said, taking a glass of water. How nice. Richard will be so pleased you're here to see what real success looks like. I smiled and slipped into a chair at the back table, the one reserved for the lesser relatives. My brother David sat there, along with Jennifer and Michael, our cousins. Uncle Richard really made it, Jennifer whispered. Membership here costs 50 grand just to join, Michael added in awe. I hid a smile. I knew exactly how much the dues had gone up since the renovations. At the front, Uncle Richard tapped his champagne glass. At 62, in a tailored suit and silver hair, he looked every bit the man who had never doubted his place at the top. Ladies and gentlemen, he boomed, thank you for joining me in this magnificent setting to celebrate not only my promotion, but the Thompson family's tradition of success. Applause rippled through the room. His gaze swept the tables until it landed on ours. Some of you may not appreciate what it takes to belong here. Willowbrook demands the highest standards, both financial and social. Murmurs of agreement followed. But that's what separates achievers from ordinary people. We set goals, we work hard, and we earn access to places like this. His eyes flicked back to me, sharp with condescension. Now, I know not everyone in this family can rise to this level. Some are still finding their way. Take my niece Sarah, for example. She's been stuck in the same job for years, driving that old car, living in that tiny apartment. But she's here tonight, and maybe seeing real success will inspire her to aim higher. The room turned to look. Some faces carried pity, others smug satisfaction. Heat flushed my cheeks, but I stayed calm. Richard wasn't done. Some are meant to achieve great things, and others, well, they provide contrast. Sarah will never own anything like this country club membership, unlike the rest of us. The message was clear, know your place. I quietly sipped my water. The meal continued, laced with pity disguised as kindness. Don't feel bad, Sarah, one aunt told me. Not everyone can be wealthy. Have you thought about going back to school? Another suggested. The important thing is that you support the family's success, a third added warmly, as if pity were a favor. I thanked them politely and enjoyed the chocolate mousse I had personally approved for the dessert menu. After dinner, Richard swaggered over to our table. Sarah, I'm glad you came. I hope tonight was educational. It certainly was, I answered evenly. Good. There's something to be said for knowing your place. Not everyone can be a success, but everyone can at least appreciate it. Absolutely, I said, hiding a smile. I mean, look around you, Richard said, sweeping his arm toward the chandeliers and polished wood paneling. This is what achievement looks like. Willowbrook Country Club represents the pinnacle of social and financial success. The membership requirements alone would be impossible for someone in your situation. I imagine they would be, I said evenly. Exactly. You'll never own anything like this, Sarah, but you can enjoy it vicariously through family who've worked hard enough to earn it. He patted my shoulder, smug and patronizing. Keep working hard. Maybe one day you'll afford dinner at a place like this on your own. That would be something, I murmured. The evening wound down in the marble lobby, Richard boasting by the fireplace about turning Willowbrook into the Thompson family's official gathering place. I slipped out quietly, their laughter following me. The valet brought around my Honda Civic, an object of amusement, no doubt, to the relatives watching from the windows. The next morning at 7 a.m., I sat in my office reviewing reports. Willowbrook's numbers were excellent, full membership roster, profitable restaurant, fully booked greens. At 10:30, I picked up the phone. Good morning, Patricia, I said to the club's general manager. Please terminate the membership of Richard Thompson, number 4782. Of course, Miss Chin. Should I note a reason? Owner's discretion, that's all. By mid-afternoon, my phone buzzed. Sarah, Richard's voice was frantic. You'll never believe this, Willowbrook revoked my membership. 15 years, gone, no explanation. They said it came from the owner. How strange, I said mildly. Did you ask to speak with them? I demanded it, but they said the owner doesn't take calls from former members. Former members. Sarah, can you believe that? That does sound harsh. Do you know anyone at the club who might help me? The irony nearly made me laugh. The same man who had spent the night ridiculing my supposed lack of success was now begging for my help. I might know someone, I said. Later, I instructed Patricia, have legal send him a letter. Membership revoked for conduct unbecoming, a violation of our zero-tolerance policy against disparaging others based on financial status. Yes, ma'am. 3 hours later, the phone rang again. They're accusing me of discrimination, Richard sputtered. Me, just for talking about success. You were there, Sarah. I didn't say anything wrong. You don't think, he faltered, when I mentioned you in my speech, that wasn't inappropriate, was it? You said I'd never own anything nice, I reminded him. That was realistic. I wasn't insulting you, just contrasting situations. You in your small apartment, old car, entry-level job, versus me, a senior partner with a country club membership. I let the silence stretch. Sarah, you are still working in some office, aren't you? I smiled to myself. Tell me, Uncle Richard, do you even know what I do for a living? Some clerical work, I assume, filing, admin, something like that. Reasonable assumption, I said, but wrong. Do you know who owns Willowbrook Country Club? Some investment group, I suppose. Pacific Holdings, LLC. And? I own Pacific Holdings, LLC. The line went dead for a moment. You, what? I bought Willowbrook for $23 million, 18 months ago. It's mine. That's impossible. I specialize in distressed asset acquisitions. My portfolio is worth $89 million. The entry-level job you've mocked for years is me running my firm. The small apartment you sneer at? A penthouse I own outright. And the old car? A choice. The silence stretched until he whispered, Sarah, are you telling me you're rich? I'm telling you, I said coolly, that everything you assumed about me was wrong. I wanted to see how you'd treat me without knowing about my money, I said, and last night, you showed me. You turned me into an example of failure at a club I own. Richard's face went pale. If I'd told you the truth and you'd treated me differently, that's exactly the problem. Sarah, I understand perfectly. Your respect is conditional on wealth. Your family love is based on status. And your treatment of people depends entirely on what you think they can do for you. That's not true, he stammered. I was wrong. I made a mistake. No, you made a choice. You chose to humiliate someone you thought couldn't fight back. His voice cracked. So you're keeping me banned from the club? The membership termination stands. Sir. Please. His composure broke. That club is everything. My reputation. My standing, they're built on appearances. I noticed. I'll apologize publicly. I'll tell everyone I was wrong about you. Do you honestly think this is about an apology? Then what? It's about letting you feel what it's like to be dismissed and excluded, to have your worth judged by someone else's shallow assumptions. I get it now, he begged. Please, give me another chance. The decision is final. By the next day, the calls began. Shock, backtracking, sudden praise. Every family member had always believed in me. The most revealing came from Aunt Patricia. Sarah, sweetie, we had no idea. We're so proud of you. Proud of me, or proud of my bank account? That's not fair, we've always loved you. Have you? Last night you told me not to feel bad about my situation and suggested I find other ways to contribute, since I'd never be wealthy. I was trying to be supportive. You were trying to manage what you saw as an embarrassment. That's not true. Aunt Patricia, if I lost everything tomorrow, would you still invite me to dinners at places like Willowbrook? She hesitated. Well, that would depend on cost. Exactly. Within a week, word of my fortune had spread. Invitations poured in. Cousins I hadn't heard from in years wanted lunches, dinners, coffee dates. The family's new motto was, "We always knew Sarah would make it big." But Richard was relentless as calls, letters, even showing up at my office until security escorted him out. Finally, 3 weeks later, he cornered me outside my car. Sarah, please, 5 minutes. I've asked you not to contact me. I've lost everything, my reputation, my standing, my identity. Do you understand what you've done to me? I've done to you exactly what you spent years doing to me. That's different. How? Because I was successful, I earned my place. And you assumed I hadn't earned mine. You hid it. I lived quietly. You made the assumptions. They revealed your character. Sarah, I'm begging you, please reinstate my membership. I'll do anything. Do you know what the most painful part of this has been? I asked. What? Realizing that 40 years of family relationships were conditional, that love, respect, and belonging depended entirely on appearances. That's not true, is it? His voice shook. When I thought you were poor, I used you as an example of failure. When I learned you were wealthy, I tried to make amends. What part of that suggests I didn't care? All of it. I made a mistake. No, you revealed your values, and they're incompatible with the kind of family I want. So what now? You're cutting me off forever? I'm treating you the way you treated me, by judging your worth. And my judgment is this: you reduce people to assets or embarrassments depending on their perceived success. I can change. Can you? Or will you just treat me better and keep humiliating others? He had no answer. Richard, I said softly, losing the membership wasn't the punishment. The real punishment is knowing that every family relationship you built was as conditional and hollow as mine turned out to be. That's cruel. It's honest. And honesty is something this family has avoided for a very long time.